I'm gonna start this year with something I should have done at the end of last year. I'm gonna give you the top 10 games of 2018. This is that one video that I can make every year that no one can correct me on because this is my list. And no matter how much you try to correct me in the comments, these were the games I enjoyed, so what are you gonna do about it? And to make things more interesting for every number on this list, I'm also gonna give the game an award. So number 10 is gonna be the best game of something, the number 9 is gonna be the best other something game. And without further ado, here is the list. And number 10, we have Dead Cells. And Dead Cells makes it to the top 10 because it just plays so well. It plays incredibly well. It's a roguelike dungeon crawler, like many we've seen before, but what sets it apart is just how tight it controls, how tight it plays, how satisfying everything is in this game. I'm gonna give this game the best Spartan Kick award because look at this thing. You can smash enemies through doors, you can smash them into walls. It is so satisfying, and that's not even my favorite weapon of the game. Now, most roguelikes face a few different problems, like when you die, how do you keep the player motivated to start over? How do you make the first levels not boring after the player has to go through them 1,000 times? And every time you start a new run, you find a random set of weapons that completely change your game. Weapons just completely change your game. And that's part of what makes starting a new run so cool. On top of that, you don't have to explore the first levels. After you get good enough, you can just speed run them. And if you're fast enough, you can get into a door on the second level that gives you some bonus rewards. Now, the runs do get kind of long towards the end. There's a middle point that is a little bit slow where you feel like you're not unlocking much stuff and it's taking you too long to make any sort of progress. So it definitely has its problems, but nevertheless, good enough for my number 10. And number 9, we have Ninokuni 2, The Revenant Kingdom. This game is so good looking, but so good looking that even if it was a bad game, even if it was terrible, I would want to play all of it just to see all of it, because it's that good looking of a game. And luckily the rest of the game does not suck, so it was one heck of a time. I'm gonna give this one the best looking game award. Gameplay wise, it has such a unique battle system. I've never seen anything like it. It's an active battle system, but it has the customization of a JRPG. And on top of that, you have these little minions that you can bring into battle, also customizable. And each one of them has a special attack when they bunch up together. It has a bunch of different activities, a bunch of different gameplay systems, from procedurally generated dungeons to a kingdom management sim that looks like a mobile game. And most of it is completely optional, so if you don't like one of those systems, you just don't play it. I had an amazing time with Ninokuni 2. Shame that the game was a little bit too easy, something they patched later in the game, but I've already beat the story. I kind of don't want to go back to it now. But if you haven't yet, hey, you can now make it harder. And I definitely recommend that because it was way too easy. And number 8, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Not only am I giving the best music award to Super Smash Bros., I'm giving it the most music award as well. It's got so much music, and so much of it comes from nostalgia, from listening old themes all remixed and stuff. But also there were some songs in here that I just didn't know because I didn't play the original properties or for whatever other reason. And I just love those tracks. How can you not give this game the best music award? It's got so much of it and so good. Outside of that, I definitely enjoyed the kind of story mode that they had for this Smash Brothers. It pays a lot of reference to other games. For instance, let's say you fight an enemy and that enemy is supposed to be the boss from Metal Gear Solid, but the boss is not a playable character in this game, so they make you fight Zero Suit Samus with some custom conditions that might resemble that fight. I found that to be such a neat touch and such a move of appreciation for good games of the past. I had a lot of fun playing World of Light, and on top of that, this is my first proper Smash Bros. And by that I mean I played the 64, but I never got in as deep as I am right now. I am actively learning how to play Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it's been a fun process. I mean, about as fun as any other fighting game, I guess. You pick a character, you get better at the character, you feel yourself improving, you feel yourself learning new things until you get tired of that character and you pick another one. And in that regard, Smash Bros. Ultimate has been a solid game. And number 7, Red Dead Redemption 2. And I'm gonna start by saying that I don't like playing Red Dead Redemption 2. And by playing, I mean the act of controlling the character, of moving him around, of shooting, of, I don't know, doing whatever. So how come it's on this list? Well, I do enjoy being immersed in this game. There's no other game that is as immersive as this one. They've created this faithful Western world that it's so easy to pick up and just be like, yeah, I'm a cowboy now. So you just play and get lost, and everything around the corners, the direction this game received, the camera angles, the transitions in and out of quests, the pacing of cutscenes synchronized with the music, it's all top notch. I'm gonna give this game the award for best movie game. I just wish I liked playing it more because it would have been so much higher on the list. But they made a choice of being realistic, of being as immersive as possible, and they could have played it safe in so many places and they didn't, so I applaud that for for Rockstar, I really do. But the way Rockstar games play, it's getting a little bit outdated in my opinion. At number 6, we have Hades, and I've debated whether or not I should add Hades to this list. Not because it is in early access, because let's face it, it is 2019. Video games have changed, and you gotta accept that. Whether it's a game from 2016 that we're all still playing, or an early access game, it should all be valid to make it to this list. Now, the reason why I wondered is because it was such a recent game. This game came out in December. Did I give it enough time to consider it? And honestly, I just played a lot of this game lately, way more than some of the other games on this list. And I'm gonna give it the award for best roguelike. Now, usually I don't like splitting games into genres because most games nowadays, they just mix all the genres. But the reason why I give this game the award for best roguelike, it's because it is the roguelike to kill all roguelikes. There's so much in Hades that propels you forward. It deals with all the roguelike issues so well. Whether you made it incredibly far in a run or you just made it a couple of rooms in, you feel like you've made progress because every time you come back to the hall, which is the place where you return to after you die, you can talk to all the different characters and get a sense of the story. Yes, the story moves forward every time you die. Not only that, but you also bring back some resources that you can invest in yourself, so you get some permanent buffs that make your life easier in subsequent runs. And then you just choose your weapon and start over. And every weapon plays so differently, and everyone can be so unique depending on what you encounter. Because the gods themselves, the gods of Olympus, will grant you buffs, and these buffs are different depending on the weapon you carry. And they mix and match in such interesting ways, and on top of that, they know which weapon you're carrying, they give you some dialogue lines, they even know how your health looks, they know how far you made it in the dungeon, and they reference that in their voice lines, which is, everything is voiced, by the way, it's not just text. Everything looks incredible, and there's so much propelling you forward, whether you did a good run or a bad run. I cannot get enough of Hades, and I very much look forward to seeing what they're gonna add in the future. At number 5, we have Hitman 2, and there's not much to say about Hitman 2, except it is a great sequel to Hitman 1, the first Hitman. Well, not really, but it was one of my favorite games back when it came out, and now Hitman 2 is just better. And I think part of it is just how funny this game can be, and no one knows whether it's intentional or not. I mean, it's gotta be intentional. I'm sure the developers know how funny their game is, but no one can say for sure. Even Hitman himself, he just plays stuff straight-faced. He's like, I'm the world's greatest assassin, I'm gonna murder everyone, but do you know you're giving a house tour to the guy you're about to kill? You're not a realtor. How much do you know about real estate? And it's situations like this that are just hilarious to me. And it works because it just feels like no one in this world finds this funny. They just face these situations as completely normal, but I just think they are hilarious. And the first Hitman, they kept things fresh with the elusive targets, with constant updates to the game. Hitman 2 is already going down the same path, so I'm gonna give this game the best ongoing game award, with a maybe attached, because it is quite recent, so it hasn't fully deserved that title yet. If I must give an award to this game, I'm just gonna give it the funniest game, because it cracks me up every time I play it. And number 4, Celeste is gonna get the award for best indie game, hands down. And what I love about this game, besides being a very solid platformer, is the fact that the powers you have at the start of the game are the powers that you have at the end of the game. You are always playing around with the same abilities. What changes are the stages that you go through. There are things that you can interact with that give you extra jumps, that give you air dashes, but your abilities, the abilities of your character, they remain the same for the entire game. I love the level design in this game. I love the variety there is in it. The music is phenomenal. Even the story was fantastic with great characters, which is something you don't see in these 2D platformers very often. It does have a deeper message beneath it all. I think it's a struggle against mental illness and coming to terms with the fact that, you know, there's this darkness inside of you, but it doesn't necessarily have to be your enemy. And it's great that they're using a video game to tackle these issues, but it's not that different from other games that are doing the same thing. That's not what pushes it up on the list for me. It's just a very solid game even without that stuff. Again, I applaud it. But what really sells it is tight controls, amazing and simple mechanics, great hidden secrets. You can play this game as much as you want, basically. You can go for the deepest secrets, the hardest challenges, or you can just casually stroll through the levels. And it is indeed an experience worthy of this number 4 on this year's list, which was, it was an amazing year, it really was. And for a game as simple as this to make it this high, trust me, it's because it's that good. And number 3, Marvel's Spider-Man. Not to be confused with anyone else's Spider-Man, it is Marvel's Spider-Man, and I'm gonna give it the Best Open World Game Award. Why? Because they finally nailed Spider-Man. There's a bit of nostalgia in this one for me. I played a lot of Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation 2. I bet like a lot of you did. And back when I was a kid with not a lot of games to play, a lot of my time was just spent swinging around. And this game just captured that feeling perfectly. I love swinging around in the new Spider-Man game. That's why it is the best open world game. There is fast travel in this game. I barely use it. I never think of it because it's just that fun to traverse the environment. And when it comes to open world games, a lot of its quality is determined by the traversal. Is it fun to travel around? Is it fun to move in this world? And in Spider-Man, yes, absolutely yes. And they have tried it time and time again. Do you know how many Spider-Man games there are out there? For them to finally make a good one, it couldn't have been easy. People have tried. Multiple studios have tried. And this one just nailed it. On top of that, you got great cinematics, an okay story with some good character development actually. And despite me having some problems with the combat, I also find it enjoyable. I've also been enjoying the DLC. I mean, the story of the DLC isn't great, but it's awesome just to go back into this game and swing around doing missions. No matter what they are. I just want to go from point A to point B, do a mission, beat up some bad guys, watch a cutscene, and do it all over again. They finally did it. They finally gave us a good Spider-Man game, so that makes it into the top 3. And number 2, we have God of War. And this one is here for similar reasons to Red Dead Redemption 2, where I think it's a great movie. Great camera angles, great transition in and out of cutscenes, amazing cinematic moments, amazing voice acting. The whole thing looks expensive as heck. But unlike Red Dead 2, I actually liked playing this one. The new combat system is fantastic. I love the weight behind every move, and we get to see a whole new side to Kratos, the main character. I think the way they picked up this angry-filled character and transitioned him into something else is not only believable, but also made him an actually enjoyable character that has more than one emotion. On top of that, I love Norse mythology. A lot of the story, I mean, I could see it coming because I knew some of the gods, and the big twist at the end is, oh, this guy is this other character's son, I guess. Which, yeah, I mean, they hint at that, and if you know anything about Norse mythology, I guess you could see it coming. But nevertheless, the way they get there, it's fantastic. So I'm gonna give this one the award for best story. Because even though I knew the ending, it just kept me engaged throughout the whole thing. Whether it was through major story cutscenes or through just riding the boat with a head that tells you stories. Everything came together very, very nicely in God of War. The gameplay synergizes great with the world, with the story. It has just such a great balance. There are some things that change, obviously. It's not a perfect game, but we're celebrating the number 2 on my list. So I don't want to bash my number 2. But I am gonna bash my number 1 game, which is, to the surprise of absolutely no one, Dragonball Fighters. This one gets the award for best game and for best fighting game, obviously. And the reason why it's so high on the list is because I never thought I could enjoy a fighting game as much as I'm enjoying Dragon Ball Fighters to this day. I've played a lot of fighting games in the past. I consider it to be one of my favorite genres, but it wasn't until Dragon Ball Fighters that I found out how deep you could go. Dragon Ball Fighters was not only the gate into fighting games, but into the fighting game community. I've been watching EVO for years now. I had no idea how much I was missing because I was only scratching the surface of this community. Now I understand it so much better, and it was through the lens of Dragon Ball Fighters. And since this is my number 1 game on the list, I just have to criticize it. That's what I have to do. Story mode, that's not enjoyable at all. Why is this the only Arc System game without a proper tutorial? Is the online always this laggy? Oh, you can just rage quit without any consequences. Who thought this lobby system was a good idea? Super Dash? More like I just won the neutral. It's obviously got a lot of issues, but I know all of these issues because I just played a ton of this game, and I'm still playing it. But you know, even if I didn't play this game anymore for the rest of my life, just the time and enjoyment I got out of it justifies the top spot on this list by far. This game has influenced the entire genre of fighting games. Trust me, no one is developing a fighting game right now without looking at Dragon Ball Fighters and some of the great things it did. And that is the list, folks. My top 10 games. Do you agree with the list? Do you disagree? I don't care. It is my list and you don't have any input in it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.